Tracks and conversations.
Now, before we read this letter, we got to get into the disclaimer. We on this show are not licensed sociologists, psychologists, psychotherapists, or any of those mental health professionals, but I'm a pretty smart guy. I read a lot of stuff. I've been through a lot of things in my own life, and I've also helped other people with things in their life. And that's how I think I'm qualified to help you. However, if you feel that your scenario or your situation needs deeper or further analysis, please seek out a mental health professional or a spiritual advisor. Now, I will advise you that this next letter could be very triggering for some people who have been SA'd. So I will advise, if that is you, that you turn away at this time. But this is definitely a subject that needs to be dealt with. And here it goes. On Halloween, my girlfriend and I, went out with one of her female friends. Now, at some point, my girlfriend asked if it was okay for her to kiss her friend. Since this was the first time something like that came up, and because this is her first closed relationship, we had agreed she would always ask first. So I said yes, but I realized almost immediately that I actually didn't feel comfortable with it. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be the bad guy. Instead, I just shut down emotionally and ended up smoking too much weed and drinking too much. Now, on the way home in the taxi, I had a panic attack and threw up a few times. When we got home, I basically collapsed into bed. She laid down next to me. Now, she had been wearing a vibrator the whole night, which made me kind of horny, but I told her I was too drunk to have sex. She said she could just get on top. So I sort of agreed. But while she was on top, I passed out a couple of times. When I tried to switch positions and get on top, I realized I wasn't able to perform anymore. The next day was awful. And even now, I still don't know how to deal with what happened. My sex drive has completely disappeared since then. I just need some advice on what to do next. Let me take a deep breath on this, because there's a lot of nuance in this letter and a lot of things that really weren't talked about in depth that I kind of read in between the lines. So I'm going to deal with a lot of this, okay? Because your body is trying to tell you something that your mind is scared to admit. Your sex drive hasn't disappeared. Your sex drive is gone on strike, basically, because you no longer feel safe in this situation. Now let's break this down, because there's a lot of layers to this, and I really want to be careful as I go into this. First of all, you fell into the cool guy trap. I want to be cool, like my girlfriend, oh, she wants to kiss this girl. Okay, I'm cool. I'm open-minded. Yeah. You didn't want to be the bad guy in the situation. So you completely abandoned your boundaries in that situation. You said you felt uncomfortable, but you still let it happen. And because you couldn't speak up for yourself, you tried to dumb it down with the weed and the drinking because you felt some type of way. But again, you liked this girl and you didn't want to mess things up. That was your first violation. That was the one you did to yourself. All right. Now let's fast forward to when you got back home. We have to talk about what happened in that bed, because that's where you seem to think that everything went wrong, even though I pointed out the first violation. You were throwing up, you were having a panic attack, you were collapsing, you told her you were too drunk and tired. She proceeded anyway. Now, I know you sort of agreed, and I need people to pay attention, because I know people are going to say, well, he's a guy. I know how y'all do. But men can be violated as well without consent, without full consent. I need that to be clear. But let's look at the definition of consent, because, again, you sort of agreed. And consent is not a mumbled word under intoxication, under inebriation. You know what I mean? When you are so drunk that you cannot give full permission and consent, and someone proceeds anyway, that is a violation. Let me be clear. That is a violation. If you feel it was a violation, that is what it is. Consent is being present. Consent is being able to say yes, fully awake, eye to eye, not mumbling, not so drunk that no, because the next morning could be with regrets and denial and feeling violated. Now, I want to visit this part though, and I'm not making fun. But she was wearing a vibrator this whole night. And you said it kind of turned you on. And she was turned on. And if I'm reading between the lines as I have been, she had an agenda already by wearing that vibrator. She kind of knew that she could do some freaky sneaky with you with that thing. And she used this opportunity to do that. Was it malicious? Maybe not. She may have misread the room because of her open history with her open relationships where boundaries were different. Was it negligent? Absolutely. Because the category is you need to read the room. If your partner is passing out, you don't get to violate them. Wait until the morning. You ain't that damn horny. It's not that serious. If I'm with somebody and they are passing out, I'm going to feel some type of way in the morning because the world is the way the world is. Honey, you could be looking at some charges the next day. Don't play crazy. Y'all read the news. You understand how this thing works. Now, you're asking yourself if you were sexually assaulted. That holds a lot of weight. And I'm scared to say yes or no one way or the other. Did you agree? Yes. Were you fully aware? No. Did she know you were drunk? Yes. Did she proceed anyway? Yes. Were you fully present in the moment to be able to give full consent? No. Did the act continue? Yes. I'm going to let you draw the answer to the question. I've given you all the questions. You have to, come to the conclusion yourself, whether you really feel you were SA'd. But here's what you need to do. There needs to be a conversation. And it needs to be from the beginning of the Halloween night with the kiss with the girlfriend to the next morning where you felt violated. You need to talk to yourself first. Where did I not allow myself to have full autonomy and give myself permission to actually say what I'm thinking? I need you to do that. I need you to do that first. That conversation needs to happen with yourself. Then you need to have the conversation with your partner and say, look, I really feel like this was not what I wanted to happen. This wasn't the way I wanted to happen. And I'm going to put some of the responsibility on myself, but I need you to know what your part in this was too. As grown people in a relationship, you have to be able to have that conversation. Now, if she's a bisexual woman who has been in open relationships, she should be aware that there are certain things that you don't want to do. And if that is a reason for her to get out of a relationship, so be it. It is what it is. But you got to have the boundaries and you got to have the conversation. And next time you find yourself in a situation and in a relationship, you need to if I'm ever so drunk that I cannot hardly talk, I can hardly move, please do not have sex with me. Please don't force the situation. Please understand that is my boundary. Please understand that I will consider that a violation. And these are conversations that every person should be able to have with the person that they're intimate with. I think so many times we want to make our partners feel full and comfortable, and we want to live in a world that we live in today where people are open and honest, and you don't want to be homophobic or transphobic or biphobic. But everyone has their limits, and everyone has the things that they don't want to be involved in. And you have the right to speak that with your partner. I really hope the best for you in this. I know this was a long one, but there was a lot that was going on in this letter that I really feel I had to flesh out and talk about. And for those of you who have maybe been in these situations, in these circumstances, please seek someone who is a mental health professional to help you get through it, okay?
Tracks and conversation. conversation.